Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. I was seeing the list of topics here, and my topic seems to be completely on a different planet. So hopefully I'll connect the dots for you, and it'll make some sense as to why this topic fits in with everything else happening. I don't know how many of you realize that one of the largest industries in the world, other than military and healthcare, is marketing. A lot of money goes into marketing every year. It's a multi-trillion-dollar business. And therefore, it's important for you to understand what this industry does and how it is rapidly changing, actually dramatically transforming. I'll start with a small story. The story is when I was growing up in India as a kid, my mother would tell me, let's go marketing. What she actually meant was, let's go shopping. In the Indian vernacular, marketing and shopping were quite interchangeable. I would go along with her to the marketplace, to the local market, and it used to be a fascinating experience for me of looking at all the products, finding out what discounts are available on what items. That used to be my task. My mom would unleash me to find out the discounts so we get the best value deals. There'll be free samples, which I was very aggressively after. And the shopkeepers, they used to know me by name, and they would indulge me. So those are some beautiful, beautiful memories. So the word marketing got etched in my mind with a lot of positive feelings. Now, I'm afraid today, if you talk to people about marketing, those are not the kind of feelings people feel about. It's almost perceived to be some kind of a con game. There is a deceptiveness in how it is practiced. You are deeply suspicious of marketing. And you say, oh, this is like a marketing pitch, implying that this is complete BS. No, the reality is that's not what marketing is, and that's not what marketing was meant to be. Now, I'll just actually give you some fascinating factoids. Today, on an average, every one of us, irrespective of the country or the region that we live in, are exposed to anywhere between 3,000 and 10,000 commercial messages every single day. We don't even notice them. We have learned the art of tuning ourselves out from all those kind of messages which come in front of us. We don't even notice, we're just walking past. But that's a huge amount of money that is being spent on these messages. Interestingly, it has also been demonstrated that the span of attention of human beings is getting shorter and shorter, to an extent where today it is less than that of a goldfish. So goldfish actually has a higher span of attention than we, the human species, which is scary, actually, come to think of it. So you got a very narrow window of attention through which about 3,000 to 10,000 ads are trying to come through, make an impact on you, and influence your preference from one brand to some other brand. And that's not an easy task. Now, what happens is, as a result of which, today it's a very fascinating thing. I get a WhatsApp forward to me saying that, hey, this is a beautiful article, you must read it. An article from a reputed magazine, typically, or a reputed media outlet. I click on it. The landing page is full of stupid ads. I can barely see where my article is. And if by mistake I touch something, I go off into some other sphere altogether, which is very annoying. And the tactics that have come about are so deceptive. Like, you see 3 lines of the article, then come a series of ads, and below there it says continue reading. Right? That's not consumer friendly. It is anything but. And if you want to exit a pop-up window that automatically appears without your wanting it to, the X that you are supposed to click is so small compared to the size of your finger. You touch it, you end up opening the damn ad. Right? It's very annoying. And I'm talking to you as a marketer. As a lifelong marketer, I find it extremely annoying, extremely irritating, and totally unacceptable as an experience. Take another situation. Because I'm originally from India, I love Bollywood songs. I watch them on one of the video channels. The song is happening, it's typically, a song it's a fun thing to have. Not even 5 minutes in, my experience is stopped for me to see an ad that I don't care about. I'm not looking at the ad, I'm looking at when the skip now button comes after 5 seconds, right? And I click it, and then I continue my song. But by then you have already destroyed my experience. And not only that, as if this is not bad enough, they show me now 2 ads. The first is called unskippable ad. For 15 seconds I have to suffer through, and then you have got the 5-second skippable ad. And if I say, look, I don't want these stupid ads to come in front of me, they say, well, you got to pay $12.99 per month to get an ad-free content. That looks to me like a blackmail. As a consumer, this is not how you treat, right? And somewhere marketing has lost its direction, its purpose, and its values. The way marketing is being done today is completely deceptive, and it is taking consumers for granted, and that's not how it has to be. Now, that's where, in fact, I started researching and working on a new method of doing marketing effectively. Now, all the principles and theories of marketing were formulated about 50 to 60 years back, when there was no internet, there was no mobile, there was no social media. Of course, there was no artificial intelligence. That's when all the marketing theories and concepts were formulated by the likes of Dr. Philip Kotler. And we stick to those as the perpetual truths or the eternal truths, and then we try to use them in our day-to-day strategies, which is totally fallacious, because when I researched into each one of these, and I said, look, marketing theories that we are today following are not like the theories of gravity or magnetism, which don't change with time. The reality is we need to relook and reinvent every single theory and framework, which is what I tried to capture and put it in my book called Quantum Marketing. Every single aspect of how do we get consumer insights, or how do we manage consumer stickiness, not through loyalty programs. Advertising as we know it, I say provocatively, is dead. Loyalty has to be totally reinvented. There is nothing called a purchase funnel. These are all seen to be the tenets of modern marketing, which are completely wrong. And the tenets, as I see it, as we move forward, and we will dive deeper in when I have the a conversation with Diana, which is, first and foremost, we have to look at privacy and data security. I'll just give you one quick small story. A few years back, I had some minor surgery. This was in the United States. When I came back from that surgery, a few years later, I get a message saying that, oops, your data has been compromised in a hack. So we lost your date of birth, we lost your social security, your full legal name, your address, everything is gone. I was furious. I said, look, why did you need to collect all the data from me for my medical procedure? Second, if you needed it, why did you not purge it as soon as the procedure was done? Because you didn't need it anymore. And third, why did you have to store it? You have no business to collect my data if you don't know how to protect it. And as a consumer, that's what I feel. But if you see today, many of the apps, the amount of information they collect from each one of us as consumers is scary. The information that they collect and the information that they keep has nothing to do with the service that they're offering, but still they are data greedy. They say everything I wanted, and you are thrown a bunch of legalese in very minuscule print, which says that unless you sign this and sign your life away, you cannot access this app. And none of us will really be bothered to read every one of this. You simply look at it, sign it, and be done with it. That has to change because science and technology has evolved so much that you don't need personally identifiable information to do personalized, targeted marketing. Your privacy can be completely protected, and still we can do fantastic, directed, targeted marketing. Those are the kind of things that we have to look at. Like, if you look at consumer economics, today when you look at all the money that is made when you as a consumer are looking at any ad, it is by the platform that is actually serving the ad and some brokers in between. But it is your consumer attention that is being traded, so should you not be a part of that economy? Most often you are told, no, you're getting free content, that's what you get. No, you should get a lot more. There is, it's a complete mindset change as well. So I will actually not go into each one of these now, but I think just to give you an idea, I'm challenging everything that we are practicing today and said there is a new framework with which we have to approach, and that's what quantum marketing is about. And Diana, if you come, happy to have this chat with you.
Thanks for waiting. Thank you very much.
Come on.
I think this is where we are. I'm going to sit down, and I get the handheld because I forgot to check my hat. So we're going to have different forms of communication here. I want to, first of all, thank you so much, Raja. Thanks, everybody. I love coming to DLD. I think it's a great event, and I love the thought-provoking nature of the conversation. I want to start with what I was listening to this morning, which is AI. And when I think about that anecdote of you shopping, I'm planning to create my digital self to go and do my shopping for me, so my agent can talk to your agent. How does that change this whole calculus around reaching me if something else is doing it for me now?
We are already beginning to see it. Today, we do immense amount of consumer studies. So for example, we categorize products. We say these are impulse purchase, which means you buy them on an impulse. But if you as an individual have delegated your buying process to a machine, which is now called an agent, that impulse factor is actually in jeopardy. So companies whose products and services are in the impulse category have to totally rethink the entire paradigm and the strategy. That's going to be pretty fascinating. Likewise, if it's not a impulse purchase, but even if it is a regular purchase. So for example, you have got your refrigerator. You delegated your authority to the refrigerator to keep buying and refilling the items that you have already consumed. It knows what your consumption pattern is, and it says, okay, we are running low on milk. This is the brand that Diana normally purchases, and it places an automatic order on whatever is the nearest store. Or maybe it'll even decide which is the right store for you based on whatever the criteria is. Now, as a marketer, my challenge is, how do I market to your agent? And you might have hundreds of different agents.
Well, and my agent probably knows what I need as opposed to what I want, right? And so I think that marketing is about creating wants to me.
So I would put it this way. Firstly, the distinction will start blurring quite a bit, right? When you are telling the machine goes on your existing behavior and goes with that. And if your wants are changing along the way, it'll take time for it to catch on. Unless there is an intervention, it'll not do it.
So do you have advice, before we move on, because there's so much around the tenets I want to cover, but what advice do you have to marketers in the room who see AI, who see that we're recusing ourselves from decision-making? What do you do in that scenario?
Firstly, I'll try to learn the hell out of this ecosystem. And I have to paint every single possible scenario and then have plan for each one of those scenarios should those specific scenarios materialize. So for example, today marketers still follow what we call as the purchase funnel, that we first have to create an awareness, convert that awareness into interest in buying the product, then create a true desire to buy the product, and then nudge you to take action. And hopefully you'll be satisfied with the product experience, so you go and repurchase. This whole thing is called IDAS. Now this IDAS is completely irrelevant to this process that we are talking about when you have these agents. And what happens is, we as marketers have to now figure out what are the algorithms which will convince your agent or your bot to buy my product instead of somebody else. What's also fascinating is, I am not a human being who is marketing to your bot. As a marketer, I have my own series of bots. It's bots selling to other bots and convincing them. It's going to be like Star Wars. Very exciting phase.
Well, and you have a lot of data, and I always love coming from the US and Europe are so different. So you mentioned privacy and data. You know, if you say the term, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, that is not a good thing in the US, whereas we would sell our children's social security numbers for a seat upgrade. I don't know if anybody else would, but I probably would. And so that is the mindset in the US, obviously a different mindset in Europe, and Europe's taken a lead in tech regulation across the board. So what have you seen in terms of the difference of how this is playing out in those two markets in particular?
See, I think in terms of Europe in particular, they are much more conscious and responsible about consumers' rights and consumers' protection. It's less like a free-for-all. And I think, in fact, on data security and the regulations around it, GDPR was the first one in the world. Now, it took a little while for US to adopt some of those with the California Consumer Protection Act, CCPA. And then, that's pretty much it. So the point is, different countries and different continents are at different stages of evolution. And Europe, I think, is definitely much more sophisticated and evolved in terms of its thinking of how to protect consumers and their privacy and their data. No questions about it.
Since you made it personal a little bit, you know, going to the market and such, talk about the tools that you use now as a marketer. Because I think of marketers, as certainly in the C-suite, you're the ones that lean in to creativity. You're the ones that the CIO says, put that back, can't use that now. Tell me more about what intrigues you.
So firstly, I experiment a lot. And I have created my own AI studio at home with a monster of a machine, and everything I can do it offline as opposed to online. So whatever I'm feeding and training, I feel comfortable.
You have your own agent?
I do have, yes.
You?
I do have. And some of them, for example, are to pull up my son to track if he's not doing something on time. But the point on a serious note is that there are certain tools which I find are extraordinarily useful and valuable. There are some which I would say are good to have, but not really essential. Like, for example, I don't know how many of you use NotebookLM? Very few, actually, surprising. Now, NotebookLM is probably one of the biggest productivity tools that I have seen. If you are listening to podcasts, if you read articles, if you're reading books, you just feed all these guys up to 50 sources to NotebookLM. It'll give you the summary, and then you start asking and interacting with that content. It is so fantastic. Just as an example, there is a book called Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia that I read, and I thought I understood it well. It was all good. Then I fed it into the NotebookLM, and I said, now you quiz me on the book. It created a quiz, and I failed the quiz. Then I said, okay, what should I really do to learn and get the gist of this book? It gave me beautiful points, and I had a lot of doubts, and what is telomere? I had no clue what a telomere is and how it looks. It gives me such phenomenal insights. My concept of how to read a book has changed.
Well, it changes the experience of reading a book. Like, if I could step into a pod, I could get clean right away, but that's not the pleasure of taking a bath, right?
Correct.
The pleasure of reading a book is the actual narrative of the book, as opposed to, here's the short form and I'm going to quiz you on it.
So there are two functions. If you are looking to read to keep yourself occupied and entertained, this is not the route. And you should also go through that. For example, if you take one of these books like Angels and Demons or Da Vinci Code, you don't put it in NotebookLM and get the summary. The joy is there to read and get the granularity and the texture and the entire quilt. Whereas here, if you're learning something, this is such a superior way of learning, whether it is podcasts, you feed in podcasts, YouTube videos, TED Talks, or books, articles, blogs. It does such a fantastic job. It's the best teaching tool that I found.
I want to get to some of the other things like multisensory experiences and such, but first, are there other tools that you think, you mentioned incredibly useful and then not so useful? What would you put in the overhyped category?
See, there are things like a number of GPT tools that have come. And frankly, I still find that Claude and ChatGPT and Perplexity are the three that will do whatever I want to do. Perplexity does research, but it does also a lot of mistakes, so you got to be careful. Claude's, I find that the language of Claude, the language construction, is by far the best. I trained it on my style of writing. I fed my book, I fed all my articles, I fed all my speeches, and the damn thing has really, now I find it difficult to distinguish between what it has written and what I have written. ChatGPT has become my new search tool. I think I already actually stopped using Google quite some time back.
Yeah, I use it for search as well.
It's my search, and it does such a good job of giving me what I'm looking for.
There's been a lot of discussion about the importance of face-to-face and this being the human era now, you know, and so one of the things that fascinates me we don't talk about enough is AR, VR, which to some extent we've been talking about for years because it never quite paid off. Now you're seeing some really interesting devices and such. As a marketer, how do you look at that?
See, I'm very excited. It's not going to be an immediate reality. Probably it'll be a couple of years. You know, VR had come with a lot of song and dance, particularly from Meta when they launched it. And the experience was a little clunky to me. Then Apple came with Vision Pro. The experience was better, but still you have this thing hanging on your head, and it gives me neck pain after some time. But now the new devices, which at least I have seen some which are still the lab stage, they are fantastic. It's just like wearing your cooling glasses, and then where you have got see-through, so you're not completely cut off, or you can actually make it into a completely private environment where you're watching a film or whatever. It's as though like you're watching a 120 inches screen, that kind of an experience. And I see a lot of applications for marketers because AR gives you that kind of extra layer and dimension that I can use to educate the consumer better, to inform the consumer better, and make myself more useful to the consumer and add value. That's phenomenal. Plus, like for example, I think IKEA has done a brilliant job of using AR when you take the picture from the catalog and then drop it into your physical home and then see how it looks in your home. That's value addition at and really a good value to the consumer. There are so many applications I can think in terms of for this. I think AR is going to be really good, but it's not going to be a standalone AR and a standalone VR, but it's going to be more a mixed reality. It's a combination of various things that will come together, because what VR does is give you that immersion, which is extraordinary, because people want to escape to those immersive landscapes. And I know, for example, some of the hotel chains have used how it is to exactly navigate in your hotel suite. They use brilliantly VR. But all this is coming together. The key thing is smaller devices, which are being built as we speak. Probably 24 months, we'll see a fantastic deployment of these kind of new technologies.
Are you seeing any evidence in the data of people consuming differently? Because I always think of, you know, few companies in the world have insight into how we buy, like Mastercard. And you're talking about trends that have played out, some of which for a few years. So are we seeing fewer impulsive purchases? We're certainly seeing other trends like isolation. We haven't quite gotten out of our homes yet. What are you seeing that you'd put on our radar that's on yours?
See, I'll put it this way. People's impulses have not changed. So the impulses, purchases, they continue. But some of the manifestations of how these impulses kick in has changed. As an example, if you look at in India, when you go and buy something with cash, the shopkeeper will tell you he owes back 25 paise, but he doesn't have those paise. 25 paise is a small change. He says, instead of this, take this toffee or take some small item. And what actually we have seen is that when the digitization happens, that's adoption of technology by the merchants, and the payment happens digitally, the question of getting the change back does not exist. When that does not exist, these unintended impulses have disappeared. And from what I heard is that the sale of the candies of this kind of a variety have plummeted since the digitization.
I worry for some of the fast fashion that I buy late at night, so that's something to say. Now, trust, that was the fourth tenet that was up there. I think about that a lot as the media. I know that Richard Edelman, I think Margot Edelman is here as well. The Edelman Trust Barometer certainly has shown a decline in trust to historic levels. I would worry about that as a marketer because it's to some extent across the board and we don't know what to trust. I don't know whether it's the digital you or the real you that I'm talking to on a Zoom call. So how do we get around that? What is your advice?
Yeah, you see, I think there are a couple of things. The increase in distrust or mistrust is exponential. The same incident happens. You look at one channel, they give you one story. The second channel gives you a diametrically opposite story. Now you don't know who to believe, and both are equally passionate, both are equally convincing to themselves. You don't know which politicians, if at all, you can even trust. You don't trust brands anyway to begin with. Media has become completely untrustworthy in consumer speak. So there is a massive trust deficit all over. This is the time when brands or companies which really take this seriously, that trust is going to be the single biggest differentiator for them to win in the marketplace. That's when the game is going to change. And the trust is not won overnight. It's broken overnight, but it's won over a long period of time through consistency, through transparency, and through authenticity. You cannot just fake it. You have to be authentic. You cannot say today, this particular movement is important, so I'll support this movement. Now, tomorrow, if I touch this movement, it is toxic. I'll abandon this and then now latch on to something else. If you're going in that kind of a fashion, nothing will stick to your brand and you will not gain an iota of trust. But you need to do things, particularly, for example, consumers have told again and again and again, I don't trust anything that marketers talk about or companies talk about in their ads. Instead of throwing ads at me, if they do some social good in a genuine way, I feel that these are decent fellows and I would like to deal with them, even if it means I have to pay a small premium for the same quality of items.
Well, I think the decent fellows it's like we've moved from an age of science, toward an age of faith. And if you believe something, ergo it's true, and that changes marketing. I know we just have a little bit of time left. I would love quickly, since we're talking about marketing, what does it mean to be a marketer? It sounds almost like existential, but do you see your role as being different now in this environment?
Oh yeah, quite a lot. You see, I don't know if anyone has made a presentation before as to why companies fail. It has been clearly proven, study after study after study, that 99% of all startups fail because of lousy marketing. It's not because of lack of funding or a bad product, it's because of bad marketing. Large companies can get left way behind if their marketing is not good. This is the moment when marketing has to step up and differentiate the company and put it ahead. I think the sooner CEOs embrace this and marketers assert themselves and get it done, the better off the companies will be, number one. Number two, as technology is evolving so dramatically, now today, the old paradigm where a large company has large resources, whether for data analytics or putting up the data warehouses or data lakes, or even doing analytics, today, that's not needed. With $20 a month, you can get exactly the same stuff which the big companies have. So what technology is doing is democratizing the entire field, and therefore, the differentiation and the winning in the marketplace is driven by innovation and creativity. The innovation and creativity have been done not to just solve consumer problems, but also to build trust. That's going to be mighty critical.
I love that. Long live delight. Please join me in thanking Raja, and look forward to continuing the
Thank you very much.
conversation. Thank you.
Thank you all.